Hello everyone, it's me, Aaron, Professor Thorgy, your guide to all things geeky, and this is our post-Geekout reaction for X-Men Apocalypse. Now, for anybody who is new to this channel, the post-Geekout reactions are not reviews. The review for this is right there. You can go ahead, click on it right there. That is the review in which I sit down, I write out a script, I try and formulate all my thoughts, I try to come up with everything that I want to talk about, I put in there jokes, I make sure not to put any spoilers in there. It is the more professional thing in which I actually officially review the subject. The post-Geekout reactions are just my honest thoughts about the thing that I just watched. Full spoilers, it's just me talking. I don't even know where I'm gonna go in this conversation. I don't even know where I'm going in this intro, but how is that different from everything else on my channel? So, the post-Geekout reaction today, as I said, is for X-Men Apocalypse. I know this came out a week ago, but it was one of those situations where it's like, man, I am so busy this weekend, I don't know if I'm gonna have time to go and see this. And then, I kid you not, literally someone just randomly in a store, like they heard that me and my wife were going to see a movie, and they just went, X-Men Apocalypse? And I was like, I don't know you, but yeah, that's it. And he goes, oh, no. And that's like what everybody in my store had been saying too, what everyone in my comic book store that I work at, they had all basically been saying, yeah man, this is, it's not that good. And so when it got to the point in which random strangers on the street were telling me do not go and see this thing, I was like, you know what, it can wait a week. It can wait a week, and yeah, now that I've seen it, it probably could have waited another week. I probably could have gone and seen Ninja Turtles this weekend. Yeah, okay, let's talk about this. Now, as I mentioned in that review, if you watch that first, in the review, I analyzed it as a movie fan, as somebody who is looking at this as a movie, somebody who has no connection to the comics. In the post-Geekout reaction, everything I'm about to do right now, I'm talking about solely from the point of view as myself. And I am a comic book fan, and I am an X-Men fan. So, while in the review, spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen the review yet, I basically said, it's whatever. It's fine, it's right down the middle, it's toast. It is plain, whole wheat toast. That's it, that's what the film is. I'm gonna be a bit more negative in this, because this is going to be me saying, why did you do the things that you did? So let's go ahead and get into it. As I said in the post-Geekout reactions, I don't really have a rhyme or a reason to what I talk about, just kind of dive right into it. And the first thing that I want to dive into is that Mystique is the world's greatest superhero. What? Okay, now for anybody who has missed that review and has not seen this film, I don't know why you're watching this if you haven't seen the film, because as I said, I'm going full spoilers on this. But yeah, this thing starts off by them saying, hey, it's the 10-year anniversary of the events that happened in Days of Future Past, in which Mystique stopped Magneto from assassinating these political leaders, and she is now seen as the face of human-mutant togetherness and connection. She is seen as this big beacon of hope. They're even talking about her like that in human schools. They're not like talking about that just among mutants. Like even humans are like, oh, and she is the beacon of us coming together as a people. And yeah, that is insane to me. Like, speaking as a comic book fan, that is nuts that you take somebody who is one of the most evil and sinister people in the comic book universe. Mystique is straight up wicked in the comics. She is somebody who, like, she's participated in every crime you can imagine. In like the most recent storyline, she was part of human trafficking and like tying people down to suck out the mutant genes in them so that she can power up other mutants. It's like, this is nuts. She is a straight up assassin, murderer. She is a monster. And so to see this film in which it's like, yeah, no, she's, you know, she's a hero, and her big crisis in this isn't like, oh, they think I'm a hero, well, I can take advantage of that. It's like, no, it's that she's like, oh, I never asked to be a hero. The world is not peaceful. Mutants and humans aren't getting together. I don't want to be the face of a lie. And I'm like, what character is this? And that doesn't just go for Mystique, but I'll get into the other characters in a second, but it is just insane to me to think that they took Mystique and is making her the hero of this entire franchise. In fact, recently, they even came out and said, we don't care if Jennifer Lawrence doesn't want to do these movies anymore, because she also came out and said they're going to have to work really hard to convince her to come back for another film. And good for her, she is above this. She should not be in these movies. She should not be forced to put on all this blue makeup and that terrible, awful hair get up. They have never treated Mystique well. She has never looked good. And for anybody out there who's like, no, having Mystique be completely naked was an iconic thing, it's like, no, dude, listen, I saw that first film when I was like 15 too. I understand that when you're 15, it's like, oh yeah, naked Mystique. My mind is trying to convince me that this is a smart idea, but the moment in which I became an adult, I was like, no, that's dumb. That is flat out dumb. But anyway, I'm getting off on a rant that has nothing to do with what I was about to say. But basically, Jennifer Lawrence said, I am not coming back to these films no matter what. And as you watch this, it's obvious she doesn't want to be there. It is so obvious that she was like, yeah, I don't care what you have to come up with something in the story that says why I'm not putting the blue makeup on again. And that's why they had to come up with this lame-ass excuse that's like, oh, she doesn't want to be the face of humans and mutants coming together because she believes it's a lie. It's like, if she's the face of this and she's basically a celebrity, shouldn't she be getting up there in front of everyone and saying, yeah, hi, everybody who wants to talk about me? All right, let's talk about me. Here's everything wrong with the way that humans treat mutants. Like, shouldn't that be what she's doing? Like, no, she's not, because Jennifer Lawrence is like, I'm done with these films. And what the hell was I even about to say before this? Oh, yeah, right. It's insane to me that they had to go, okay, well, we gotta make Mystique a hero in this, because Mystique is so evil in the comics. That would be the equivalent of, in the next Spider-Man film, the Green Goblin is the hero of it. Like, I don't even mean like Harry Osborn, who is like, I don't know if I should be good or bad, I'm going back and forth between this. I mean Norman Osborn. I mean straight up, sick, twisted, evil Norman Osborn. Imagine if he was the hero of the next film. Okay, that is how weird it is to me. So when it comes to how they portray these characters in this film, that is the biggest problem, Mystique. But there's so many other problems throughout this. Angel, who was a playboy, he was this wealthy son of a billionaire, he led these companies, and he was always going around suave and sophisticated. He's a cage fighter in this. He is like some rugged cage fighter who's just kicking people's ass with his wings and then taking the wings and the talons on the tip of it and just scratching his wind streak into the ground. It's like, yeah, come on. He's getting drunk and listening to rock and roll music. I was like, did you even bother to pick up a comic? This has never been Angel, like not even close. Like Mystique, yeah, she has been forced to work for the good guys before. She has been forced to be a part of like government programs in which they were like, you have to work for us if you want ever be free again. So it's like, all right, maybe they accidentally looked at that comic before and they're like, okay, I think I know Mystique. Angel, this makes no sense at all. And it would be one thing if they like got into his character and developed him. So it's like, all right, this isn't the Angel that I know from the comics, but it's at least somebody. It's at least a character. But they do to him what they do to so many other mutants. This has always been my problem with the X-Men films. Like, going back to the very first one and in literally every single other one since then, it's that the X-Men films love to just throw mutants in there. They love to just throw characters at the screen and they don't give a crap about them. They do not care one bit about them. They just want to get these characters, throw them on the screen, and like they don't care if they capture their characters correctly, but they also don't care if they give them a character at all. Everybody's been talking about Psylocke. Psylocke has been on the cover of magazines. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, they brought one of our favorite mutants onto the big screen. Oh, they got this big name actress to come on here and play her. And she has maybe 3 lines in this film. And she's in the film a lot. She actually is in the film a decent amount. But seriously, the second that she meets Apocalypse, he just goes, I can make you more powerful. And she's like, all right, cool. And then she like says one line of dialogue after that throughout the entire rest of the film. She's just standing there in that leotard. And god damn. That leotard is a problem. It is a big problem. When everybody else has got these sleek, like really cool looking outfits, and then she's standing up there in that, it's like, one of these things is very clearly not like the other. And the same thing goes for Angel, not the leotard thing, but the like no conversation thing. I literally can only remember one line of dialogue that he has in this entire movie. It's when he's about to fight Nightcrawler, and he goes, "If you don't fight me, then they'll kill us both." I was like, how did you get in this situation? What is this situation? What's happening to you? Where did you come from? This is just, I know nothing about you other than that you're being forced to fight in a cage. And then I seriously don't even remember if he says anything after that. He has to have said something when Apocalypse showed up, but I don't remember it. I mean, I just watched this like yesterday. I do not remember whether or not he says anything else throughout this entire film. But yeah, he, like, Apocalypse just shows up, and then, like, this dude doesn't even really seem to agree to anything. Like, Apocalypse doesn't need to convince him of anything. Apocalypse just goes, and then, like, metal comes out of his body and gives him giant metal wings. And it's like, this is some of the most, like, just, we have to get it out there kind of a movie I've ever seen. Like, it's one of those which, like, he has 4 horsemen. Okay, Storm happens to be there. Psylocke happens to be there. They go to Angel for no reason. There's no explanation of why they would know he exists at all. There's no time to talk to him or convince him to join. Nope, bam, metal wings, get this over with. Magneto has some kind of a reason to join, but in all honesty, I'm sick of what they're doing with Magneto. Magneto has been probably the best character out of any of these X-Men films. Maybe Wolverine, you could say, has been better. It's like neck and neck between those two, but Magneto's probably been the best because he's gotten the most story to him. And the story in this is that 10 years after he tried to destroy the world and kill all these world leaders, he has settled down in Germany with a family. He's raised a daughter, and I'll admit it is a very touching scene. It is a very emotional scene when people realize who he is, and they come and they end up killing his daughter and his wife, and seeing him take revenge. It was like, okay, that actually is pretty emotional, and Michael Fassbender actually can act. He can. He actually did do a really good job in that up until the moment in which he had to like start screaming at the sky, and I was like, oh, take it down a notch. You were doing better a second ago. But yeah, so he has an actual reason to join Apocalypse, but I'm just so sick of how in every single X-Men film, there always has to be the, oh, Magneto, maybe they're still good in him. Oh, maybe he and Charles can reconnect. Oh, they have this history. And it's like, okay, I get that. But in the first one, okay, great. They established that history. Perfect. Second one, okay, there's some back and forth there. They're being forced to work together. They're having conversations with each other. It's like, all right, I understand. This is like the first time you guys have met since the unpleasantness between you two. So it's like, okay, I can understand that. But then, you know, in this one, it's like they had to give him a whole new reason to hate humans all over again. They had to give him a whole new reason to maybe have some good in him. And I could kind of understand it because they have Quicksilver there, and Quicksilver is his son, although they don't really go into that at all. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, it's my dad. Yeah, you know, whatever. Seems like they really should have built into that more, like gone to some of the backstory, like had his mom talk about, it's like, okay, yeah, so this is what happened. Because it's one of those weird things where I'm just like, how the hell did your mom ever meet up with that dude? It was one of those things which this movie just doesn't make me believe it, but I could kind of let Magneto having a family and the family having to die all over again, I could kind of let that pass because it seemed like they were going to set up that Quicksilver was going to come up, admit to him that he was his son, and then Magneto would be like, I still have some kind of family still out there. And then, you know, Magneto would see Apocalypse taking on Quicksilver and beating him up, and that would be the thing to force Magneto to, you know, come back around. But Quicksilver doesn't admit that he's his son. And don't get me wrong, I can understand Quicksilver being nervous about admitting to something like that. I fully understand that. But then why put it in here at all? Like, it seems like a total missed opportunity to me. And one of the big things about this film is that they were trying to reintroduce us to the core X-Men team. You know, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Storm, Nightcrawler, all those characters again. They were trying to reintroduce us to them, and I feel like they just completely failed at that. I like Nightcrawler. I will say that I did like Nightcrawler in this. But Scott Summers, again, this isn't even close to the Scott Summers from the comics. Not even close. Like, first off, Alex Summers is his older brother, and I think he is solely his older brother in this because they didn't even think about that when they put him in First Class. And it was like, alright, so he's fighting in the late 1950s. How is he related to Cyclops? And then they say it's like, oh, well, he's his little brother. But it's like, dude, this is happening at least 2 decades later than that first film. And he was maybe 18 at the youngest in that first film. He should be practically 40 in this movie. And yet he's standing there like, 25, 27, maybe 30 at the most. Yeah, it is just so weird to me that this film, from First Class to this film, it's been at least 2 decades. And the only one who looks like he's really aged at all is James McAvoy. He's got like a few bags under his eyes, but I think, that could have been like makeup. That could have been just him, being incredibly tired. It's like, all right, I understand that. But yeah, everybody else, they look exactly like they did when they filmed First Class, because it was only like 5 years ago. In fact, they even make a comment in here that Moira McTaggart hasn't aged a day, and I was like, at least someone noticed it. At least someone brought that up in here, but what's Havoc's excuse? Why the hell is he not aged? But yeah, going back to Cyclops. Cyclops in here, his personality is whatever they needed to be for that moment. That's it. Like, he shows up and, he is very like, oh, I don't have, what am I doing, these powers? He looks, alright, fine, he's just got these powers, whatever, that's understandable. Then he's, going up to Jean Grey, and he's trying to be understanding. It's like, alright, well, that's a girl he likes, so, we're exploiting him some. Then the moment that Nightcrawler shows up, it almost feels like they had another character in that spot, but then they're like, oh shoot, we need Cyclops in this scene. Get rid of that character, put Cyclops in here. Because he's there like, you never been to a mall? Oh man, this is a matter of national pride. Come on, bro, we gotta go. It's like, who the hell are you? You are not the guy we have been following this entire film. And the same thing can kind of be said for Jean Grey. Jean Grey is just there. Jean Grey's entire purpose in this movie is the person who has visions and has a lot of psychic power. That is her entire purpose in this film, and it really it frustrates me so much because it's almost like they want to prove to everybody that they can do the Phoenix Saga better, because this entire film is just setting up the Phoenix Saga again. But the problem is, they're setting it up the exact same way that X3 set it up, and nobody liked that. People did not like what they did with the Phoenix in this. It was like, oh, so Jean Grey's just really powerful and has an evil side to her. It's like, okay. Not even close to the comics. And I understand the comics is weird, because in the comics it's a cosmic space creature that comes down. But it's like, dude, you have done so many weird things in the X-Men universe. You did time travel in the last one. You can do space. Alright, or at least, think of something other than Jean Grey has an evil split personality and is really powerful. It's like, the Phoenix deserves more than that. And this entire film, especially towards the end of it, whenever it came to Jean Grey, it was setting up the Phoenix, and it was setting up in that exact way. And it's almost like Bryan Singer wanted to say, listen, I directed the first X-Men and I directed the second X-Men, but I couldn't direct that third final one involving the Phoenix. I want to come back and prove that I can do it right. Which is really interesting, considering the fact that he has come forward and said, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to direct another one. I think I'm done directing the X-Men films. Which makes me think that in probably like 10 years at the max, probably 5 years, he's probably going to come forward with all kinds of horror stories about what it was like making this film, about how Fox was just getting in there and getting their fingers all in it and just coming in and changing everything he wanted to do, coming in with weird demands, because pretty much everybody who has worked with Fox on these films has come forward with some kind of story about that. And same thing happens at the other companies, like Joss Whedon, when he left Disney right after Age of Ultron, he came forward and was like, here's all the shit that Disney made me do in that film that I did not want to do. And here's all the stuff that they made me do in the last film that I didn't want to do. It's like, I have a feeling like we're going to get that. I have a feeling like after this film, Bryan Singer is going to come out and it's like, yeah, this is how I wanted to make that movie, and this was all their fault. And the problem is that Fox has screwed over so many things with their superhero movies. I would probably be on Bryan Singer's side in this one. He could say anything he wanted. I'd be like, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I suppose I should also bring up Jubilee, although, why? Why is there any purpose in bringing up Jubilee in this? It drives me nuts that Fox has been going around promoting Jubilee in this film so much. And in fact, they even did like a special on MTV, which was like the 4 big stars of X-Men Apocalypse, and Jubilee was one of them there. And I was like, okay, so clearly she's gonna have a lot to do with this film. No, they did with her exactly what they do with other mutants in all the other X-Men films I just said I have a problem with. In which they go, here's this character that you love, they're gonna stand there on screen and then be gone. It was like, yeah, that's exactly what happened in this one with her. I got up at one point to go and get popcorn. I was gone for maybe 3 minutes. Unless she showed off her powers during those 3 minutes, she doesn't even use her powers in here. She might not even be a mutant. She might just be somebody with, a yellow jacket walking around the X-Men facility. It was a complete waste of having her character, and I say it's a complete waste because we're probably not going to get her in the next one. Probably not. So this was it for everybody out there who's like, oh, I can't wait to see Jubilee on the big screen. It's like, this was probably all you're going to get of that. That's pathetic. That stinks. Really what this is beginning to turn into is not so much a critique of this one movie, but of how Fox treats their superhero films in general, especially the X-Men movies. Because I used to really like the X-Men films. I thought the first X-Men was really good. I thought X2 was fantastic. X3, I'll admit, I did not dislike it as much as everyone else. It's not a good film. I'm not coming in here and saying that, but I always said people are a little bit too hard on that film. Wolverine Origins, I never saw. I'll flat out admit that. I never saw that film. First Class was when it started to hit me. First Class is when I started to turn around. Because that's the one when I really noticed, oh, they're just throwing these fan favorite characters up there for no reason, and it kind of takes away from the movie because I'm supposed to be cheering them on, but I have no idea who they are and I have nothing invested in them. So that's when it kind of slowly started to dawn on me. It's like, oh yeah, this is kind of what they like to do in these movies. Days of Future Past, I really enjoyed. I was like, okay, they went back, they fixed it all, and the Wolverine I thought was okay. I thought that was fine. But there's something about this film, about this one specifically, that kind of like with First Class, it made me look back and go, oh, here were some of the problems with the previous films I never noticed until now. This one's making me do that again. It's making me look back at those previous films and go, oh, this is how they have done these X-Men films, and a lot of things I didn't like in this one are in those other movies. And part of the other reason why I'm being so negative on this film is not even this film's fault, it's Civil War's fault. Is that I always used to watch these films and go, oh, well, they're doing a good job with these characters. But then in Civil War, when I saw that many different superheroes up there, and each of them being treated with respect and the way that they should be treated, including Spider-Man, a character who Marvel did not even own again until that movie. And then that one movie, we saw him treated better than he was in all those Sony films. It made me look at the way that these characters are treated and how they're not even freaking close to how they are in the comics. And I'm not going to come in here and say, oh, well, it has to be like the comics. It has to be like it. It's like, no, they don't. This is a totally different format, a totally different medium. They should be interpreted differently. Like, you don't have an entire year of 20-page issues coming out every single month to tell this story over the course of. You're telling it now over the course of a 2-hour-long film, maybe 2.5 hours. It's a completely different format. You don't have the entire other universe around this of other comics that built up backstories to these people. You do have to change these stories around. I fully understand that. But I've always said that it's important to capture the feel of the source material. It's important to make the thing that you see on the screen resemble in some way, shape, or form the source material, even if it's just in heart. In fact, the heart and the soul of the source material is the most important thing to capture. And as I watched this, I was like, wow, it doesn't even feel close anymore. And when I can look over at Marvel and how they're doing that, like just knocking it out of the park, even on their films that aren't good, I can still look at them and be like, yeah, but it kind of captured what it was supposed to be. Like, even on the films that I don't really like from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I can still look at it as like, yeah, but it feels like a thing. It does not feel like someone came in here and just tampered with it and had no idea what they were talking about. It's like, it feels like someone knew what they were talking about, they just couldn't convey it well. Yeah, that's what kind of is making me look at this film and at the rest of the X-Men films, aside from Deadpool. But let's be honest, Deadpool doesn't count. Deadpool was a film that the Fox guys did not want to make because they thought it was too silly and they thought it wouldn't work. This is what they wanted their Deadpool to be like. And so the Deadpool film, which was so good, that was Ryan Reynolds coming in there and going, guys, I know how to do this. I'll invest my own money in this. I know what I'm doing. And they still wouldn't let him. He had to leak the test trailer that they made to the internet so that the entire internet would go make this damn movie. So I don't give Fox any credit for Deadpool. But when I'm looking at all the other X-Men films, I'm just like, man, that's how you guys are doing it, and you're not even getting close to the source material. You're getting it so far off that it makes me wonder, why are you even bothering calling this X-Men? Why are you even bothering calling this dude Apocalypse? Why are you even bothering calling her Mystique? And it kind of makes me realize I'm almost done with the X-Men films. I'm going to keep watching them because I have to watch them for this. But it does really make me just really wish that Marvel would come in here and take these characters again. And the sad thing is, Marvel's offered. Marvel's put the offer out there. It's Fox who isn't willing to do the deal. They're not willing to make the Sony deal where they share custody of these characters and share the profits from it. Fox is the ones who are just saying, no, screw you, we're going to hold on to them forever, despite the fact that this film right now is not making the money that they wanted, and Fantastic Four is definitely not making the money that they want. So sadly, it's one of those things in which it's going to be a long, hard time before I feel like we can really get the X-Men done right on the big screen. By the way, I just realized I have not even mentioned Apocalypse up until now. Yeah, he's lame. He's lame in this. I'm not even talking, and again, not talking about Apocalypse from the comics. Apocalypse, if you want to do him right on the big screen, he should be this big, overwhelming force, and instead, he is just, he's powerful, but there's nothing behind that. I mean, he is just a dude who just goes, yes, I will take over the world, and there is nothing that you can do to stop. And I was like, all right, whatever, shut up. You're not really threatening. The only thing threatening about you is the power. The personality behind it is really non-existent in this. In fact, speaking of the powers, that was another thing that really, if it had not been for Civil War, I might have been nicer on this film. Because, yeah, at the end of this, it is a big blowout action, things just flying everywhere. But the thing is, none of it felt real to me. In Civil War, yeah, you see people using tons of powers and fighting all over the place, but it's creative. The way that people use their powers are imaginative. In fact, the way they use their powers actually describe their personalities in a way. And also you see tons of actual physical action going on here. You see lots of dialogue being exchanged during this action that gives it all personality and makes it fun. Whereas in this one, yeah, you see tons of special effects being thrown around. But it feels like if you just grab the characters out of those shots and just had the special effects flying around, it would have given me the exact same feeling. Because in Civil War, you've got dialogue that is hilarious or really dramatic while these characters are fighting, and it makes you feel tense, and you see them using their powers in really cool ways, or you see them actually having to fight while they're using their powers, not just shooting out laser beams, but actually having to do hand-to-hand combat during it. That's really creative. But in this one, Magneto fighting at full power, it's him doing this while stuff just flies around him. Cyclops fighting at full power, it's him doing this while laser beams just shoot out of his eyes. Storm fighting at full power, it's her doing this. That's kind of the point, is that in Civil War, when you see Iron Man shooting out laser beams, he's not just staying there. No, he's flying around, zipping around. Tony Stark is delivering witty lines of dialogue. When Spider-Man is throwing out his webbing, he isn't just staying there. No, he's jumping around. He is giving lines of dialogue. They're witty and clever. And here, it is literally just people pointing their hands or thrusting their faces out, and while Apocalypse just kind of stands there and takes it, or he fires back by doing this. And all the lines of dialogue during these fight scenes are just no, don't, or yes, I will. It's just stuff like that. And I mean, there is some actual like combat going on. There is some actual like physical combat going on, like Psylocke and the Beast fight. But honestly, that wasn't that great. I mean, it really reminded me of back in the 90s when people were flying around with strings on their back. That's what it kind of looked like to me. I would not be surprised if they actually were like being tugged around on strings throughout that, because yeah, they looked way too floaty. Like they did not look like they had weight to them. This would have been amazing back in the 90s. It really would have been. People would have been blown away. They would have been saying this is one of the best comic book films of all time, but it ain't the 90s anymore. It isn't. The superhero genre has grown past this kind of a movie. And honestly, the X-Men deserve so much better. And that's the most frustrating thing about this film. It's that I've now seen that Marvel can take any character of theirs and instantly get them right. We saw that with Spider-Man. And as I was watching this, like, I was just bored out of my mind. I honestly was. And it just hurt me to think, if you are an X-Men fan, like, there's two types of fans. There's the ones who is like, I just want to see the characters that I know up on the big screen. And then there are the ones who is like, I want to see the characters that I know up on screen. And if you just want to see someone who looks like the Beast up there, alright, cool. As long as you don't mind him being a human for 2/3 of the film, and then just turning blue at the end because it's like, oh yeah, I forgot, he needs to kind of look like himself in this. This was an entire film where Nightcrawler was the only person who was like, I'll put on the makeup, I have no problem with that. Everybody else was like, don't make me fucking blue. This ain't fucking blue time. I'm not in the Smurfs, I'm not getting blue in this movie. God, the X-Men films have always to me just seemed like they're ashamed to be superhero films. It does. It's always just seemed like that, and this still kind of feels like it. Oh jeez, how have I not even talked about this yet? The Wolverine scene. Wow, that came out of nowhere and was not needed in this movie. Yeah, it's cool to see Wolverine at Weapon X. It's cool. In fact, I'll even say for a film series that said we're not doing anything like the comics, it was actually pretty cool seeing Wolverine there in like the cybernetic gear from when he was in Weapon X. I thought that was kind of nice on a comic book nerd level. However, there is no reason for them to go to that facility. None. Zero. There is no reason for them to be there. It was, God, it just stopped the entire movie to do that. Yeah, they came in because, there was a psychic attack and this is where Professor X lives, so we're gonna come in here and kidnap all the mutants. It's like, seems like if you wanted to kidnap all the mutants, you didn't need a reason, you didn't need an excuse, you should have done this at any point in time. Also, while we're talking about Weapon X and William Stryker, did they forget what they did at the end of the last movie? Like, remember at the end of the last movie in which they were talking about like all the things that could change because he went back in time and changed the past, and then we see him being pulled up into the Weapon X people's boat, but then you see that William Stryker is actually secretly Mystique? That doesn't come up at all. Like, it's just regular old William Stryker who's running Weapon X again, and he has Wolverine. It's like, the only way that the end of the last movie could possibly make sense is if the moment that their boat got up to shore, the real William Stryker came walking up and went, who the hell is that? And then they turn around and Mystique just goes, bye, and then jumps out of the boat, and they're like, oh, well, I guess we got a free mutant now. That's the only way the end of the last movie makes any freaking sense. Jeez. Yeah, so, as I said, it's cool, the Wolverine moment was cool, but it was not needed in this movie. They crammed it in there. So, yeah, alright, I think that's the last thing that I want to talk about. I could rant longer about Fox's treatment of the X-Men, but honestly, geez, Fox, just chill out. Just realize that Marvel knows what they're doing, and they're willing to work with you, and they're willing to split the profits with you, and you'll make more money by doing less work if you just do that. Just get over yourself. That's all I want to say, because I want to see the X-Men done right. I really do. And I'm not saying that there haven't been good things in the X-Men movies. There are still parts and there are still movies that I still hold up as being like, no, that was an actual good one. Hugh Jackman, I think, is still a really good Wolverine. But God, I'm ready to see the actual X-Men in a movie. I think it's about time. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this. Let me know how you felt about this film. Full spoilers are allowed. Let me know down in the comments. And as I said, if you want to see the actual review that I did of this film, which is a lot more professional, in which I judge this not as a comic book fan, but as a movie fan, then go ahead, click right there. There you go. Alright, but thank you guys very much. If you like this and you want to see other far more professional looking stuff from me or other stuff like this, my post Geek Out reactions, then make sure to hit that subscribe button right there. But for now, I'm out. Bye guys. Oh god, pray for the X-Men, you guys. Pray for the X-Men. They'll find their way home eventually. They will. I hope they will.